Is this a buy the dip opportunity on the Bitcoin? Will Bitcoin continue to outperform? What do you guys think?
I bought it, man. I bought that dip. I felt like I'm an idiot doing this, but this is my thesis. I do
ETH
the
or
things
Bitcoin?
that I'm like, a Bitcoin, of course. The dip on ETH. Come on. I'm retarded, but I'm not like completely retarded.
Beautiful. Welcome back to Bitcoin.com's Token Narratives, where we discuss the biggest stories shaping the Bitcoin and cryptoverse. My name is Graham Stone, Bitcoin.com marketing lead and director of Hopium. I'm joined as usual by news and research lead and chief voice of reason, David Sensel. Bitcoin.com CEO Corbin Fraser is back this week, primed and ready for nuclear-grade spicy takes. All right, let's get into it. Markets gut check. Sunday night saw the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. The reported number was $2 billion in liquidations, which already beats the FTX liquidation event, which was the previous record holder. However, some sources are... Yeah, go ahead, David. Interrupt me already.
Yeah. So Bybit's, I think his CEO came out that day. So go ahead.
Yes, some sources, and that's the source. Bybit CEO saying the number is actually 10 billion or close 8 to 10 billion. And this is due to some kind of technical variance with exchanges not publishing the full scale of liquidations at a granular level. I don't know how that works.
Wait,
but
are CEX not transparently reporting things?
Well, in this case, I think it was more of an oversight. They rate limited the APIs from so that the API wasn't just like pushing out tons and tons of responses per second. So Bybit came out and said, the CEO came out and said, it can't be 2 billion because they alone had 2.1 billion liquidations. So it's not possible that the entire market was 2 billion if they alone had two.
So congratulations, crypto degens. You've smashed the previous record of liquidations. And crypto once again fulfilled its use case as the futures market for TradFi, enabling market participants to react in real time to unfolding events while the TradFi markets were closed.
Yeah, I think it's good to see these events. It's like a stress test on the system, especially when you see it, it didn't go to zero. Hey, we did it again. Like there's always a chance something could completely, fall apart. And then you're like, oh, chain halts and Aave breaks or something like that. But nothing happened. Aave survived. Yeah. It's like, to me, that's the only real bull signal still for Ethereum is Aave. Without that, man, I don't know.
Bitcoin is one of the only major assets in the crypto space that has held up in this current volatility. Most assets are down 20-30% over the last 7 days. Ethereum in particular got ravaged with
destroyed. Oh my God.
With a wick down to the low 2000s, which I think retraces all gains from the last 2 years.
Are you guys buying that dip, or is this like I ain't touching that toxic waste anymore?
I'm looking for one last pump to get out of my final Ethereum.
Yeah, I think.
Oh man,
I think.
Come on, Eric Trump.
Yeah, send more tweets, sir. Please.
Well, yeah, I mean, World Financial Liberty Financial. Yeah. They bought a bunch of ETH before this dump, right? Or was it right after?
And then both were rumors of them sending ETH straight to Coinbase
That's
Maybe
right.
they were doing the same thing as you.
dump.
They just wanted that final pump, and they're like, "We got to unwind this position, guys. This is terrible."
At the exact time that Eric Trump posted on Twitter, in my opinion, now is a good time to purchase ETH. So make of that.
And then
what you will.
later in the week, he said it's a good time to buy Bitcoin.
Okay, so is this a buy the dip opportunity on the Bitcoin? Will Bitcoin continue to outperform? What do you guys think?
I bought it, man. I bought that dip. I felt like I'm an idiot doing this, but this is my thesis. I do
ETH
the
or
things
Bitcoin?
that I'm like, a Bitcoin, of course. Okay. Dip on ETH. Come on. I'm retarded, but I'm not like completely retarded. I saw BTC just completely getting annihilated. And at some point, I was like, I think it's going to go back up. I'm just going to do a little stink bid and caught some nice wicks. And I mean, like, everyone else was feeling like this. Oh, is this it? Was that it? Are we cooked now? Is the market dead? And I feel like those are always great opportunities to kind of, if you think there's still runway in terms of this entire market, you can capitalize on. But it was interesting to see like MicroStrategy being like, you know what, we're not so bullish right now. We're not going to buy, but they missed the opportunity. And I beat you, Michael Saylor. I beat you. So
yeah, Michael Saylor is a buy the top sort of guy. He's just
doesn't
doing
he always
his best
say that he's buying
that
every day,
price.
any price? He just doesn't buy these dips. Like, I mean, talk about missing some opportunities here, guys.
Yeah.
No,
so let's just quickly go through some of the.
Did you, Graham?
I also didn't. I'm just exhausted, man.
Cowards.
Yeah.
Well, no. Here's what I think, though. I think the way that the move went, I was honestly not impressed with the downside. So, on an absolute basis, it's like the biggest liquidation ever. But on a percent basis, it's not. It doesn't even come close, right?
Mm-hmm. Would you have been buying if it had bottomed out at like 80K?
Yeah. I would like to see like a bigger percent capitulation. This is not by
capitulation
crypto,
for ants.
Yeah, by crypto standards, I wasn't really impressed, and so
I love how like the entire like market just got nuked. People lost billions of dollars, and you're like, not so impressed.
Is that it? But no, I honestly think there's a decent chance that we might maybe not revisit those lows, but we could kind of trend down a little bit and then pick up before we pick up again, which is common. But I'm also just exhausted, and I don't know. I'm not.
I caught a bit of the last week's episode. It sounded like everyone's feeling kind of like we're in this weird cycle of just what the F is going on. It's a little bit.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that more this week.
Yeah.
But like the whole tariff situation made me even more exhausted, and all these like exogenous events.
Yeah, it's incredible. Before we get into the tariff stuff, I just want to do a little recap of some of the bullish, the basic bullish things for Bitcoin. Okay, so this week we had a South Dakota representative, this guy named Logan Manhart. Wonderful name, by the way.
Good Lord.
And he said, quote, "It is likely South Dakota will be the first state in the nation to pass a Bitcoin reserve bill." Now, he's the guy proposing the bill, so whatever, it's PR for his bill. But okay, that's interesting. South Dakota, possibly, this guy's calling it's going to be the first one to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing, another bullish point here we have is that there seems to have emerged a second prong of the Bitcoin reserve conversation, and that is that there's now this talk of a sovereign wealth fund. Okay, so it hasn't been established yet. It's been proposed. They've got 90 days or something to like do something about this. It's an executive order that requires them to look into it. Okay, so and there's talk of Bitcoin being held in the sovereign wealth fund, and it's on this note, we have to note that the Secretary of Commerce, well, he's not yet, but he's likely to be confirmed, Howard Lutnick, is a Bitcoin holder. There was a video floating around where he's quoted as saying that he has, quote, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin, in exposure to Bitcoin, and it will be billions. This is the guy, CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. This is the guy who's going to be like making the decisions about what goes in the sovereign wealth fund if it actually happens. Okay, so now there's two paths.
That's great, though, isn't it? Don't we want that? Isn't that good? Like, this is the same thing as like Elizabeth Warren just trading her bag, right? It's like,
yes, exactly. So I'm just recapping some of the basic bullish points here for Bitcoin in the big picture here. And so now we have two ways that the US may hold Bitcoin. There's the strategic reserve and now the sovereign wealth fund.
But isn't the language in all of this not explicitly Bitcoin? Isn't that what it was rubbing some Bitcoiners the wrong way this week, right? Like, none of this language specifically says or exclusively says, oh, this is for Bitcoin, right? It was like digital assets, crypto assets, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I might be too much of a multi-chain maxi, but I'm kind of like, I'm okay. I'm okay if they want to hold some random alts and stuff, as long as it's not like, as long as they're not putting Trump meme coin on the treasury, you know, like it's probably the only, that would be where I'm kind of, that's the line in the sand. Is like, I don't know if we need meme coins in there, but like if you have some crypto tech alts that provide some utility and have a different way to skin the cat, sure, why not? And if it's American based, I get that. It's kind of, I don't know, I don't have a problem with that. I think the people that are really upset about the alts are probably more upset about XRP than anything, because I think there's just some questionable launch. There's just some uncertainty around that asset specifically for the Bitcoiners. But I think, I don't like, my guess is people wouldn't be crying if it was Solana being held, or if it was even Ethereum being held, or if it was, I mean, even Cardano. I don't think people would be that upset. But I think it's just the XRP one that seems to get everyone's panties in a knot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that, Corbin, especially with the stories coming out about how XRP leadership is kind of really working at getting in nice politically. So it would.
Well, it just seems like they're lobbying the hardest, right? Like
exactly.
They've got the most, say, I don't know, like political clout to push or something like that. Where, you don't. I'm sure. I'm sure there's people in the Solana community that are also kind of banging their drum and trying to talk their book to the powers that be, that are potentially deciding what assets could be held on this thing. But I suspect nobody is banging the drum harder than XRP Nation. And maybe that's the thing that kind of bugs people.
I think, you know what I'm looking forward to, honestly, is the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. Like, imagine this. So we get a reserve of some kind, but it's not exclusively Bitcoin. I want to be at that conference and see the reaction to, you know what I'm talking about? I want to see the reaction. It'll be, I mean, obviously it'll be happy, but I imagine it'll be mixed. But man, I can't wait to go and see that.
Yeah. All right. There's one other point that I want to bring up before we move to the rest of the discussions around tariffs and other topic. And this is something that was brought on my radar by an article written by Bitcoin.com news OG Jamie Redmond, where it's noting that the Bitcoin held on exchanges has basically fallen off a cliff and is in continued decline since November. We're like at all-time lows here for as long as this chart goes back, which is 3.5 years, I think. So what this means is when Bitcoin is off exchange, I think it means two things. One is people are just, they're putting it into cold storage. They're not looking to sell right here. They're waiting. They think the top is far from here. That's another one, and the other one is it's held by institutions, which is not on exchange. Okay, so like in ETFs, I guess. So this is interesting. I think this is a pretty bullish data point. Things are looking good. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is always it's not like how do you say? It's an indicator that should reassure you along with other indicators. And when this starts to turn the other way, you should start being more cautious, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And almost always later in the cycle, when you get towards the end, this will start to swing the other way. And I think historically it's always done that.
So good indicator to watch. All right, let's get into the tariff stuff. Crazy week. Trump, of course, threatening tariffs on Mexico and Canada, 25%.
China.
Both countries, and China, we could talk about that as well, but both Canada and Mexico immediately rolled over, acquiesced.
Canada took a little while. Let's be honest. There was a lot of
there was some bluster.
Took like a day.
Yeah. It was weird though, man. Canadians are fucking weird. Just man. Graham and I are both Canadians, so we can, you know what, we're gonna call. I feel comfortable saying bunch of weenies. Just everyone's just a bunch of weenies. Just we're all Canadian. We're gonna drum up our chest and combat Trump. You idiots. Just chill. You're talking to the goat here, guys. Take a knee.
I gotta share this video because it's just too funny.
Oh my god!
I gotta share this video. All right, just bear with me here.
Oh,
right,
that's good. I saw this.
Predicted.
I admit, I was worried that you were
ago.
going to try to humiliate me.
I would never embarrass you, Justin. Are you kidding me?
Thank you, Donald.
Now I want to see you eat it.
Excuse me? The hamburger.
The Big Mac, the president of all burgers. I'm going to make you eat it like a dog with no hands.
Mr. President, I have self-respect.
Not so much, to be honest. I mean, he came like a dog, didn't he? He really did.
Mon ami, I come to you not on bended knee, but as an equal.
30% tariff.
My father taught me to
50%
never...
tariff.
We Canadians are a hearty
60%
lot.
tariff.
For Canada! I'm a hungry little puppy. I'm so hungry for my puppy chow.
I don't like Justin.
Okay.
He's a little bitch.
Yeah, and
I think that's how it went down.
It did because there's a tweet from Justin Trudeau about 24 hours after this whole thing kicked off, where he says, let me see if I can pull it up. Exactly. He says, just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. So, yeah. And so what happened here is the tariffs have been postponed for a month.
Just they hit the pause button. But it is weird. It is weird that we've got this, like, he's our prime minister, but he's put in his notice that he's retiring, that he's stepping down, but he's still somehow in charge of negotiations. Meanwhile, you've got the Conservative Party of Canada, who are supposed to be somewhat more right-leaning, and they're kind of libby. They're somewhat lefty as well. And they're, doing the same thing. They're beating the same drum. Oh, we're going to be the big tough guy. We're going to tariff the tariffs, and we're going to, you can't bully us. We're Canada. And it's just like, I don't know, man. That whole Conservative Party, bunch of neocon wieners as well. They're not doing anything differently. Pierre Poilievre, however you pronounce his stupid last name. He's a weenie as well. Canada's just got a bunch of weenies. We need like a good, strong governor take on that 51. That's what I want to see. I want to see this thing just disintegrate. I want to see like accelerationism. Just drive it all the way to completion as quick as possible.
Yeah, I was in Canada's announcements. I was also some of the people I follow online happen to be afflicted with the disease called being Canadian, and they were talking about how like, oh, I hope this will drive Canada to fight against the tariffs in an economic way, opening up our natural resources again, getting to our rare earth minerals and all this kind of stuff. And none of that happened yet. It's very disappointing. I mean, like, I think one of the things, at least this is what I've heard, is that Trump wants Canada to do, and this is kind of an attempt at doing it, cajoling them to do it, is, yeah, start opening up those, start reinvigorating your oil industry, and get back into the natural resource game on the world, on the world stage.
Does anyone think this is actually about fentanyl?
No.
Yeah,
the art of the deal, baby.
Either.
It's the art of the deal.
So,
what is it actually about? What's the plan?
If I was to guess,
the end game.
If I was to guess, it's some sort of North American union. I don't know if that means like actually like U.S. expanding its borders, or if it's perhaps more along the lines of just like better free trade agreements that extremely benefit the United States, where it's kind of like everyone's been, how do I say this politely? Everyone has been on the teat of the United States government. Everyone's been just sipping that little milk, and it just seems like Trump finally came up and said like, hey, get off my breast. Everyone, Canada, no more milk for you. Mexico, no more milk for you. You got to start chewing your own food,
Sorry. Yeah. You froze at the most amazing time there just now.
Sorry. Call me internet, guys.
No more milk.
This is get off my breast.
Corbin, yeah.
I was saying get off my breast and no more milk for you. Chew your own food. Sorry. Call me internet, man. They're always spying on me.
I love it. I agree. I have a bunch of anecdotes about this week, and we can get into the actual meat of it. But one of the things was, as I feel very similarly to Corbin, and I know a lot of like fiscal or economic conservatives have felt this way for a long time, that America has been, we have all these allies, all these friends that actually are not being very friendly to us. It's not a how would you say, it's not a productive relationship, right? All the money and the diplomacy and everything goes one way, as in from America to them. And then they say things like, we're friends with America. And then they stab you in the back. They have like little petty economic wars with America, like little flies or mosquitoes just like kind of poking you. And America has just put up with it for a long, long time. And this includes Canada and Mexico. And so
I'm not sure if it's actually that the external, say, countries or regions are necessarily to blame. It's kind of like, I mean, of course they are. There's some advantage being taken for sure, but I think it's also been a lot of the liberal government and the just say last 20 years of policies have primarily been to just buy people off. You're and it's sort of like the devouring mother who's just, we want to look after everyone. We want to look after the whole world. So how can we look after the world? Well, we'll pay them off. We'll buy them. We'll give them money, and they'll depend on us. If they depend on us, they can't hurt us. And then we always have these agreements, and it just became this like, like if you were a parent and you had, I don't know, an 18-year-old kid and you want them to succeed, but you're just constantly topping up their bank account and they're just constantly doing stupid shit with your money, and you're like, what are you doing, man? You got to get a job, but you keep paying the bill. At some point, it just becomes like a problem where the kid doesn't learn to, grow up. And I think this is kind of what we're seeing. It's like everyone's been kicked out of the house. You kicked out of the house. You figure it out on your own, and you start. If you want help, great. You want to come home, great. But you got to pay rent.
Yeah, I mean, to continue with that analogy, I which I think is pretty good. The other side of that, though, Corbin, is if you have a spoiled child, right? If America's spoiling all of its children, then those children are going to treat the parent like crap, right?
Totally.
They're not going to respect them. They're not going to respect them. They're going to the parents is like, don't waste your money. Don't do that. And they're like, yeah, whatever. F you. And then they do it. Like, so for example, this is shown a Canadian crypto guy said this earlier in the week. He was like, 2023, Canada basically instituted a mini little trade war with America, right? So the economy wasn't doing well. America's fighting inflation, has clear economic policy going a certain direction, right? And one of America's closest allies, it's geographically right there. Canada instituted a thing that went directly against this kind of economic initiative that America didn't want, right? And America's like, why are you doing this? This is not helping what we're trying to do. And they're like, I don't care about you. This is going to help us at the cost of you. So, I mean, that was last year. I don't see anybody, saying anything. And all these liberals are like, oh, how can you treat your allies so poorly? How can you make your allies economically weaker? It's like, dude. And these kinds of things have been happening for a long, long time.
Actually, on that note, again, there was a speech that Pierre Poilievre was giving during this whole trade war, the day and a half of banging the drum. And him and the Conservative Party came out to say, how could they do this to us? It's unjust. It's unjust what America is doing to Canada. We're their closest allies, and we're their best friends. And it just made me be like, ew. You can't say a country is a friend. I can have individual friends. You guys might be my pals, but I would never. A country doesn't have friends. A country has allies. Let's keep this. Quit touchy-feely emotion crap. It's just
exactly.
So unprofessional, and it's so it's a complete lie at what this type of relationship is between international negotiations. There's no friends. There's just something different.
There's no friends and there's no arbiter. There's no parent to go to when you get to the national level. It's just a bunch of kids in a playground. And you have the biggest bully, biggest kid around. That's the guy. That's who's boss, basically, right? There's no
realpolitik. Have
wait,
you guys heard this theory? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I wanted to play a funny YouTube clip that was sent by. This is from the what's his name? Milkshakes. Markets and Madness. What's his name? I always forget his name. He released this. He
Brent.
He said this. Brent Johnson. Yeah, Brent Johnson. Yeah. So this is kind of how he sees the situation, and I actually agree with him. This is quite good, and I just thought I would play it. It's a 2-minute thing, so hopefully it'll be okay. Let's see. There you go.
Watch those nature documentaries on the cable?
Yeah.
You see the one about lions?
Yeah.
Look at this lion. He's the king of the jungle. Huge mane out there. He's laying down under a tree in the middle of Africa. He's so big. He's so hot. He doesn't want to move. Now, the little lion cubs, they start messing with him. Biting his tail, biting his ears. He doesn't do anything. The lioness, she starts messing with him, coming over, making trouble. Still, nothing. Now, the other animals, they notice this. And they start to move in. The jackals, hyenas, they're barking at him, laughing at him. They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. They do this, and they get closer and closer and bolder, till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody, runs like the wind. eats everything in his path. Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
Sure. So actually, I think that's a good Christopher Walken legend. I think that's a good segue to my question here, which is: have you guys heard of this theory that basically this tariff battle is really just the opening salvo, I guess, in a battle or a drive to create a new deal that would replace that, similar to the 1985 Plaza Accord deal, where basically the idea is to devalue the US dollar while keeping rates low in order to bring back manufacturing to the US, make the US more competitive on the manufacturing front. And that so these tariffs are just like the opening blow in that negotiation. And we're about to see a Plaza Accord 2.0. Have you guys heard this theory?
Yeah. I think on the one hand, part of me thinks that this is perhaps like a Q level, trust the plan, this is 4D chess, guys. And I think 2 years ago, I would have said that's probably the case. But I think now Trump has surrounded himself with capable individuals, and they've completely changed the game where they're moving at such a fast pace. Media can't keep up. Like the MSM just can't combat these narratives quick enough because they're just moving at a breakneck speed. They've just come out of the gates just bucking. And I would say that could be the case. It seems like a reset of the frame to say, look, Overton window was pushed so far one way with, lib tranny, men and women's sports stuff. We're changing that frame. And then, okay, economically, everyone's been on the government and the US government teat for too long. Slap some kids off the nipples and say, chew your own damn food, reset that frame. And it just seems kind of like, there's enough people that are all looking at these problems and saying, what other areas do we need to get things reframed under, and then see how far we can run this,
And just to clarify, I think what's bullish about that scenario is for Bitcoin and crypto is if that actually does play out, where we get a new Plaza Accord and the nation, the G7 or whatever it is now, the G105, agree to devalue their currencies in order to, agree to swap lines, basically to devalue the U.S. Currency. What happens then is these other countries, their economies suffer. Right? They have to stimulate. Meanwhile, on the U.S. side, with the economy improving, with the US dollar at a lower rate, you can actually have lower interest rates, which stimulates the economy, which is bullish crypto, right? Like these are some of the
you could even pull on
permutations, right?
You could pull on that thread even further to say, well, if the US is also taking positions in Bitcoin during this period, the way for other countries to perhaps reduce their exposure to their own dollar dropping potentially would be to start your own Bitcoin treasury. And then this plays into that theory of the front running of, if multiple countries have Bitcoin treasuries and say digital assets treasuries, there may be this incentive to try to front run each other and just keep ahead of one another and, make sure you're buying before Russia buys, make sure you buy before, I don't know, some Middle Eastern oil country starts buying.
Yeah, I mean, I coming before Trump came into office, just after he won and before he came into office, it was, I don't know if it was leaked or if just the people around him just said it exactly, but explicitly, but it was conveyed that he does want to see a weaker dollar, right? And that's important to him. So I think no matter what form it comes in, that is first and foremost on his mind, is to make the dollar weaker for the reasons that you said, right? It always helps risk assets which is good. And it'll offset bringing back manufacturing, because what happens, of course, is in the process of reshoring, onshoring, nearshoring, all this different shoring, is that that's inflationary until you get the capacity up again, and so a weaker dollar would help offset that kind of necessary inflation. And then, once you have all those factories and all the stuff being made here, it's deflationary. And so, yeah. But also, other countries kind of don't want a high dollar either. Not kind of. They really don't want a high dollar either, because it makes it very, very expensive for them to get a hold of dollars. And they need a lot of dollars. They need a metric shit ton of dollars. Because, like I keep saying over and over again and telling people over and over again, I was just at a conference in Miami and I said this a bunch of times and people didn't know. All the countries in the world owe each other more dollars than all the countries in the world owe America. Or sorry, America owes other countries dollars, right? So they can't afford to have the dollar be too high, or they can't pay each other off, right? So it's not just that there's all these countries are going to collect dollars from the U.S. No, they have to collect dollars from each other. They have to collect more dollars from each other than they do from the U.S. So it's in their self-interest to not have dollars be quite so expensive.
So in the event that countries coordinate or are forced to the negotiating table and we find a way to, the world finds a way to lower the value of the US dollar relative to all the other currencies, the result of that is likely an appreciation of risk assets, notably Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah. Absolutely.
On the other hand, if it fails, and this is hold on, this is one of those heads I win, tails you lose situations for Bitcoin and crypto. On the other hand, if it fails, what happens is hold on. If we end up with a sustained tariff war, that creates economic weakness globally, which results in stimulation, like countries being forced to stimulate. So either way, number go up. There you go. Heard it here first,
for Bitcoin. Folks. For Bitcoin,
yeah,
probably not for altcoins, right?
Well, definitely not
that
for
probably
ETH,
tanks,
right? let's actually on that note, I have a tweet here that I want to pull up here if you can find this one. I think I put it under L2's taking advantage of ETH. So yeah, I mean, Ethereum in particular was hit hard in this latest drawdown. So it wicked down to like low 2000 US dollars, freedom bucks. And there was a tweet from Cup of Joseph. Stand by. You might need to pull that up, Graham. I'm getting stuck.
Yeah, on it.
And the tweet says from Cup of Joseph, a very wise man once told me L2s have the best business model in the world. They buy Ethereum block space at wholesale prices and then sell it at retail prices. Apparently the markup is 50x. So he's quote tweeting Chunk, who's Alred Chase, and they were talking about Arbitrum, which is an L2 on Ethereum, and it was showing Arbitrum's profit in the last day. They made $1 million in a day just selling space on Ethereum because they get that retail, they get the wholesale prices and they're selling it at retail markup. So considerable markup there for a running an L2. And this just goes, I think it kind of goes back to the tariff idea. I was talking to Andre, who we've had on here a few times, and his comment was Trump would be tariffing the shit out of L2s. And then I was asking him, well, who is the Trump of Ethereum to do the art of the deal? Because clearly they've got a terrible deal. Ethereum is, it's been struggling for a long time. And I think this is kind of a fine example of just too many people on the teat of Ethereum and not paying their way. A lot of weird allegories here.
Yeah,
also,
that's a good one.
I could just from hearing Vitalik talk, or not talk, but like write a lot. I don't think he likes this idea at all, which I think is a good idea. I think they should be tariffed, but he's all about like this very, I would say now a 1990s, early 2000s kind of idealism of almost like a globalist kind of thing. Like, let all the L2s, come and everyone gets a thing for free. It should be minimal.
Yeah, I don't think I Vitalik is way smarter than me, so I don't claim to know half of what he knows. However, I do, just random dude, third party looking in, it does kind of seem like he hasn't upgraded his software to the latest meta. And the latest meta is you're not in a DEI world. You're not in a proof of stake. We need to save the environment. We're not in the conversation around like blockchain, environmental impact, and carbon footprint on blockchains. Those conversations are dead and moot. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. We've moved on. And the only people that cared were the World Economic Forum, were the Kamalas, were the Bidens, were the Clintons that were saying, the Al Gores of, oh my God, the oceans are rising and blockchains are contributing to it. What are we doing? That software hasn't been updated to the fact that you've got Trump in office. The game has changed, and perhaps Ethereum needs to be more reactive. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is some sort of 20-year play that they can say, well, we'll just ride this out 8 years. It's going to swing back to woke again. We're going to go back into caring about trees and stupid fish in California waters. And, maybe they win in the end. But am I going to bet on that for the next 4 years or 8 years? No. I just would buy more Bitcoin and sell more ETH.
Yeah. I do think that maybe the thing that they've kind of misplayed, it looks like, at least like right now, is how important, at least in the short to midterm, caring about the business side of running a blockchain is. And that's what Solana obviously did well from the start. They were like, we're a business, we're in the business of making money. And this is not a charity, and we don't care how many women and minorities are on the team. We want the best and the brightest making money.
All right, well, I got a question for you guys.
I'm kidding a little bit.
Bear with me. So I sold most of my ETH bags a few months ago.
You did it first. Lord. You did it first.
But I'm still holding on to a bit of ETH. So my question is for you guys, has ETH bottomed, or is it just going to keep going lower? Should I get out now, or is there a chance that we see a little ETH revival here?
I guess that just depends if it's like relative to USDT or relative to BTC.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I don't think ETH BTC has bottomed.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm just going to dump the rest of my.
I still have ETH, by the way. I still have a bit of ETH too.
Yeah. Well, NFTs.
Yeah, I've got my ETH NFTs, and man, they have absolutely.
Well, nobody's buying those. You're stuck holding those. Oh, your bag holding those stupid JPEGs. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say though that like I think there's also this like somewhat. Like going back to this previous meta of proof of stake, save the world, the carbon footprint, proof of stake, all this stuff. All of that was sort of like, you could even take another step further and say, well, decentralization and running this like this is not a company. You like the LARP was, we're fully decentralized, or it's governance. It's not a government organization. It's not a It's not a company. Nobody's profiting from this. And all of that was sort of tied to de-risking the creators, i.e., say the Lubins, the Vitaliks, whoever else, created that. And basically saying like, no, nobody's, this wasn't a company. This wasn't, this wasn't a security. They didn't want to go to jail, right? So it's kind of like, reading the landscape. Okay, SEC is going after any asset that potentially stands to create profit for the creators, or some sort of, what was it? The Howey test was like, is there a joint company that profits off of the future sale of these assets or something like that? So I think like so much of the LARP of decentralization and the LARP of no, we're not a company, therefore we don't make company-like decisions, was sort of like done as a defensive measure against the hostility towards crypto. Now the meta has changed towards, it seems like the meta has changed. It's not legal advice, but Trump just launched a meme coin. Trump launched NFTs. It seems like, SEC has laid off some people. They've kind of said, we're not going to be taking as heavy-handed of an approach as the previous administration and the previous, people. So if things have changed, maybe it's time to start running it a little bit more like a business. Now, I do still believe fully in the idea of this needs to be decentralized and bulletproof, and it can't be attacked by a single missile, like a missile problem of like, can you just throw a missile at this blockchain and it just goes away? That would be bad. And Ethereum has done a good job at, making it battle hardened or
yeah. Also, I
mean,
really like the idea in general of credible neutrality. People make fun of that term now, but I think that's a good thing to strive for. That's what you want. For your financial rails is credible neutrality. Right?
Yeah, you don't want the ability for Vitalik to just wake up one morning and change the entire protocol. That would be terrible, right? You do need credible neutrality. You need that in place. But if it's so ingrained in the culture of that blockchain, it could be shooting itself in the dick.
Yeah. I've said this before, and I haven't changed my mind. I think long term, it'll work, right? Like but in terms of like the value that accrues to Ethereum, Ether itself.
Yeah.
I just don't see it at all now.
Yeah, exactly. Because people are saying like institutions are it's the settlement layer for institutions, right? Ethereum. But does that actually even cause the token ETH to have any value anyway? Just because some institutions are using the chain.
The previous cycle did have this ultrasound money meme around Ethereum, where it was becoming deflationary with, what was it, EIP 1559, where they had the burn, and any a portion of ETH was getting burned, and it was to the point where there's so much activity on ETH, more ETH was getting burned, therefore the supply was being reduced, therefore the price of each Ethereum would become higher in value. That has been completely washed out because of the L2 space. And now we've returned to an inflationary asset where your Ethereum is becoming less valuable over time. Now, perhaps that curve changes in the future if they make some changes, but it doesn't seem like there's an appetite to make any changes, at least not quickly. So, inflation button is on for a while.
Yeah, I saw ETH gas at 0 on my little indicator on my browser. Less than 1. So they need to add.
Yeah. Also, was it this week? There were several kind of like tweets I saw about how various parts of Solana were outperforming the entirety of the ETH main chain. It was like, oh boy, here we go. So all the activities on Solana, and now you have dApps, single dApps on Solana, creating more fees than the entirety of the ETH main chain, I believe. So right now I don't see it again. Once blockchain, eats the world and everything's on chain and blah 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 blah. Yeah, I could see that really ETH kind of being a backbone of this. But in the meantime, nothing's really, at least on main chain.
I would say though that watching all of this drama unfold on the alts has given me a lot more respect for Bitcoin. that I think I previously had during previous cycles, where it's just like, man, this is just like the granddaddy coin. It's not that, who cares? You know, it's a little bit boring, but it's safe, kind of. But yeah, no, seeing just how wrong different alts have gotten it, and just how unable they are to kind of make necessary changes based on the latest meta, it does make me just say, like, Bitcoin hasn't really needed to change too much. It's like, it kind of nailed it
has
from
its
the
product market fit.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
that's a perfect segue to something else I wanted to bring up, which was the Bitcoin security budget. One of my favorite things to throw up in Bitcoin Maxi's faces.
I'll bring up the tweet.
Yeah, this is from Bread Guy, who is an awesome follow. He is connected with the Mega ETH project. But I love his content, and his content like ranges from stuff like this, more technical, but also it includes some marketing stuff, which I also thought was great. Anyway, in this, he's just bringing up something that's near and dear to my heart, which is Bitcoin people really have no one. The royalty of Bitcoin, the nerds of Bitcoin, no one's really provided, I think, an adequate answer to this looming threat. And he's relating how Ethereum's current problem, right? The thing we were just talking about, how this proliferation of L2s doesn't, at least in the current configuration, doesn't bring value back to the main chain, right? It doesn't create fees, meaningful fees on ETH mainnet. And so all these Bitcoiners who say L2s are the answer, they really, really need to be watching this closely, because they can't just execute how Bitcoin has, right? It's not going to create enough. It's not going to create enough fees to pay for the security budget, right? And so
you should probably give the explain it like I'm five security budget explainer for people listening, because I think a lot of people don't realize the miner fee side of things.
Right. So basically, the reason that Bitcoin is secure is you have these miners who are incentivized to kind of secure the network, as in you have these big decentralized parties all over the world looking for Bitcoin, verifying transactions, making sure that there's no funny business. And they do that because they're rewarded with new Bitcoin, right? They mine Bitcoin and they get these new Bitcoin. But over time, the amount of Bitcoin that they get is reduced in half, roughly every 4 years, thus the halvening. Eventually, probably 2 halvenings from now, maybe 3, the number of Bitcoin is going to get smaller and smaller, and it'll get so small, probably, or eventually 0. But even before that, will it be enough for the miners to pay for all their expensive capital expenditures like electricity and new computers, ASICs, to mine the Bitcoin? No. And so there has to be something else to keep the miners operational and to keep them from doing other things. And one prominent solution that's been offered in the past couple of years is that with Bitcoin L2s coming on the scene, these L2s will create a lot. Will be willing to have very expensive transactions land on the Bitcoin main chain because they're going to be supporting these whole ecosystems, right? This is kind of the idea for ETH as well. And
yeah, there's going to be so much economic activity on the layer 2s that just the settling back to the main layer will be enough to pay the miners for their capital expenditure.
Yeah, and the transactions on the main chain will be hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? Tens of thousands of dollars. And that'll be okay, because all the activity will be kind of compressed, and so it won't be ridiculous. It won't be a ridiculous price, right, for that kind of thing. Yeah. Meanwhile, what is it? I think Jamie reported this week that the mempool was empty for Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're at
right?
Not all-time lows, but quite low Bitcoin transaction fees right now.
Jamie was telling me when we were in Miami, he was like, it's crazy. There are ordinals that have been kind of just scumming around the mempool for years that just kind of randomly got put on because there was nothing else left. And so these ordinals, which take up like a whole block, an entire block by themselves, basically one transaction. And they were put in the mempool and, probably at very, very low fees or whatever. And so they're just kind of kicking around, sitting in the mempool forever. And they finally got published because there's nothing else.
Score.
It's a weird time, man. It's a weird time to watch all of this stuff unfold. 2017, the fees got outrageous on Bitcoin. There was so much activity on BTC where you sent a single dollar on Bitcoin, it would potentially cost you upwards of $50 to send $1. There's so much economic activity on that chain from people trying to buy, from people trying to send, from people potentially moving to an exchange to sell or doing a swap or publishing silly things on chain. But it's dried up. And yet the price keeps going up. And yet people are talking about it. And, the Bitcoin community has taken this position that the government is the exit liquidity. And it's really, this is like something that I could not have predicted, but very interesting to unfold, to watch unfold. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right. Last thing to wrap it up. But before we do that, David, I just have a question for you. Are you drinking whiskey at 9 a.m. or what time is it? 11 a.m. here? Is that whiskey that you're drinking?
I wish. This is kind of like a whiskey glass. My dad got me this for Christmas. My small Asian dad.
I see. It's
Trump
a Trump
has
glass.
a bullet.
With
a bullet in it.
With a real bullet.
Nice.
What are you drinking there? A barley tea or something?
Yeah, it's just some tea. Whiskey later, maybe.
All right. Last little tidbit here for the week. This is something that David shared. It's a tweet from Political Math. It drives me crazy that John McAfee was like, I will never commit suicide. If I ever commit suicide, that means they murdered me. And then he committed suicide in a Spanish jail cell, and everyone was like, what a shame. Nothing to see here. I guess he was just really sad.
Yeah, that was me that shared that one. I thought it was.
That was you.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, man. Like in a sad way. This just kind of seems like I don't know, so many things just get black holed, and like the Epstein list, John McAfee getting murked, or
Epstein is. Epstein is crazy. Though.
The Las Vegas shooting. Las Vegas shooting was still one of those like, nobody's dug into that one, and I don't know, man. I guess I'm somewhat hopeful that this Doge audit on everything will uncover more and more sketch and will uncover and just like put a light on what the hell's been going on for the last 10 years where like people have been we know the government has gone after people they don't like, Julian Assange, Ed Snowden, all these different people. So I don't know. This is just one of those weird ones where things are a bit sketch. And if nobody starts questioning these things more seriously and we don't have a government that takes these things serious, then like you're just going to get more and more of these black hole events where, something weird happens and then the cycle moves on and we just kind of move on and play dumb as if, it's just a weird coinky dink. No big deal, guys. Let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Not to end on a bummer of a note, but Graham knows this. Something that I do every week is I listen to all of the like hard liberal leaning shows like Jon Stewart and what's his name, John Oliver, and a couple others. Just because I want to get a barometer for how the other side's doing, and I did it all during the Biden years, and I was very eager to do it now that Trump's in office. And to me, it's just depressing, because as you say, Corbin, I'm pretty excited about Doge and all this kind of stuff. And then the way it's being spun on the other side, though, is like, this is this is a totalitarian takeover. You see, we told you that Trump was Hitler, and we were right. He's in the treasury mining all of our data, and he's gonna, and I'm just going like, wow, it's just sad that now that we are getting some transparency, now that we are trying to bring to light some of this terrible stuff going on, it's not being well received as I knew it wouldn't be. But I had hopes, like, oh, you see this, and things like some of these shows are like, look, they care that, you see, they think it's important that we were giving $10 million to transgender reading time in Ethiopia. Ha ha ha, these conservative idiots. And I'm going like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
I think we need the hard fork society, man. There's just too many morons. The level of retardation that has hit humanity. We need another planet and start just dispersing.
Well, I'm heading to Ethiopia to do a little transgender reading. So I'll let you guys know how that was, or if they ended up cutting the funds or not. On that note, let's wrap it up here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week on Token Narratives. Adios. We out.